Now, how about some motivation this Monday mornings? Take you to the end of the year. Springing out of fear, the trap of fear, doing the right thing would always be a tough and very tough thing that requires courage. And joining us to talk about this is the founder of Wellbeing Consultant Africa and host of Deep Soul, Stephen Omojuyigbe. Now, breaking out of fear. Fear is a big issue for many people.
Yeah.
But people define fear from what they remember in their childhood. So, like when I was a kid, I used to be afraid of dogs. So that was my definition of fear.
Yeah.
And then there are some other people that are afraid of heights, they're afraid of water and things like that. But it looks like fear is deeper than that when you're an adult.
Yeah, but what you just said right now is so powerful because all fears are learned, Yomi. If you take a child born today and you drop that little girl or that little boy in a pool of water, that child is going to float and is going to begin to swim because there's a capacity for a little child to swim that is instinctual. But then you take a 2-year-old girl to a pool and she's running away and she doesn't want to get into the pool. She has learned the fear of water. That fear was not there when she was born. And so there's something I say all the time that all performance is state dependent. How you show up in the world, your emotional state determine your results. Take sportsmen, for example. At the top echelon of sports, the difference is not in skill most times. The difference is in how the player or the athlete feels on that day. So you hear coaches say, we lost concentration for 5 minutes. We were not in the zone. We were not aware. It's all about state. And the greatest state that impairs performance is fear. And once people begin to understand that nobody was born with any fear. The fear of heights, the fear of failure, the fear of dogs, the fear of cockroaches, all of those things are learned. And since it was learned, you can unlearn those fears and get to a state where fear does not hold you back. When it comes to sports, how you feel in that moment, take 100 meters final Olympic Games, it's 10 seconds. How you feel in that moment will determine how you perform. And your results is received instantly. But think about living 10 years without fear, Yomi. The cumulative effect of living 10 years without fear, how different it will be from living 10 years with fear. A lot of people don't know how much fear is holding them back.
The thing is that a lot of people also feel that, you're talking about, fear holding people back and living without fear.
Yes.
But most people feel like their fear is founded in something. So fear of the future, fear of failure, fear of putting in the money in the bank and losing it, fear of armed robbers. So some of these things, they seem like real fears of things that can actually happen, which is why they have this steady trepidation. Some people can't sleep. Some people wake up in the middle of the night. So there's always something that they feel will happen, which whether it happens or not, but it seems like it's a definite, clear and present danger for them.
Okay, so there are two things. There are two kinds of fears. There are fears that are founded in reality, and there are fears that are not founded in reality. I'll talk about the other one later. But so say, for example, you have a job, a 9 to 5, and you have a passion in your heart to go out there and do something entrepreneurial. And so you have this fear, how will I feed my children? How will I parent? And those are well-founded fears. What I teach people is that you must learn to retell the story of your fear until the fear becomes a motivation for you. And how do you do that? So you're afraid of stepping out and starting your own business, but you have this thing that is in your heart that will make you happy. And I begin to say to people, why don't you start to create a fear of living a miserable life? Living a life of 9 to 5, living without pursuing your dreams. The fear of what that can get you into can help you overcome the fear.
So it's like redirecting your fears.
You have to redirect your thoughts. And that's why I want to come to the thoughts that are not found in reality. All fears are psychosomatic. What I mean by that is the somatic experience of a fear in the body, how you experience fear in the body, has nothing to do with the experience. So let me give you 2 examples. You are in a plane that is kind of going down, maybe there's a storm and the plane is going down. You begin to have this fear. Your heart rate increases. You're sweaty. You have this sinking feeling.
Thinking of your family,
You're
money in the bank, and everything. Yeah.
The way you feel it in your body is the same thing you feel when you're on a roller coaster. You're on a roller coaster, that thing is spinning, you're missing your breath, your heart is cutting. The same experience in your body in the roller coaster is the same experience you have in a plane that is going down. In one instance, there is a real fear that you may die. In the other instance, there is no danger to your life at all, but you're feeling the same thing.
So, clear and pleasant danger in one situation, no danger in the other.
Perfect safety in the other, and you're feeling the same thing because the fear has nothing to do with what's going on outside of you. The fear is a psychosomatic experience. It's something between your mind and your body. And so, if you learn to retell the story, if you learn to change the context of the story in your mind, you can actually deal with the fear.
So let's talk about strategies.
Yeah.
That is one of the big things that people have not been able to overcome. So I know of people who have insomnia. There are people who, they stay awake because of their children. So maybe their children are in boarding school and all of that. So that becomes a source of constant worry. There are some people, again, we talked about business earlier on. So now you've left the job, you started the business, now there are new fears.
Yes.
Am I going to lose my money? Is the landlord going to come? Are the goods going to arrive? So constantly, people are just battling one fear out of the other. In fact, some people, once one issue gets resolved, they go and look for another fear and add to their lives. What are the strategies that people can use to then say on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to try and do my best to live without fear?
There's one strategy that I want to share with everybody watching this morning, and that, you know what you mean, everybody who fears a lot actually has two powerful skills or two powerful capacities that they are misusing. To be able to get into a place of serious, deep fear and anxiety, you need to have two things. You need to have very vivid imaginations, because all fears are in the future. The fact that you're afraid now has to do with your capacity to take that which is in the future and to make it very real to you. So your business has not gone down, but you have created such a clear picture of the business going down, and you have created a clear picture of all the collateral issues that will follow that. You losing your home, you losing your wife, you create that vivid imagination in your mind before you can get into a state of fear. Another capacity that people who are afraid a lot have, that they are misusing, is that they have very robust self-talk. You're able to talk yourself into a place that this is not going to work, this is going to be bad, and you talk yourself into a state of fear and frenzy. And so to overcome fear, take the same tools and change the context and change the content of your story.
How do I do that?
So the same imagination that you have used to imagine all the bad things that can happen, because like I said, it's a strength. Change the picture. Start to use it to imagine all the things that can go right. And it's just a switch in your mind. The same capacity that you use to talk yourself into a frenzy, talk yourself into peace. And look at it and say, okay, I'm doing this business. These are all the things that can go wrong. And then just shift in your mind and say, what are the things that can go right? And create another vivid picture. So people who have fears are actually people who are gifted with creating the future. They have just not learned to use that imagination, because everybody that is successful must train his imagination. So when the fear comes, just deliberately shift the picture and create another picture and focus on it.
So instead of thinking of the worst that can happen,
think about the best that can happen.
Think about the best that can happen.
Think about all of the antecedent, and the collateral good that can also happen. And the same way fear, it causes you to focus on those negatives. Just talk to yourself and focus on the positive, and immediately your somatic experience will change.
So that's a first strategy. So you take that and then you continuously, and then the second thing you talked about was that people who have a lot of fear also have self-talk. Self-talk. So I'm
but
thinking,
it is a negative self-talk.
Exactly. What if I die?
Yes.
What if I lose my money? What if, so they're always thinking, so that is there. So what kind of self-talk should I then change that to?
Last week we were here and we were talking about the kind of questions you ask yourself. And so you just said down, those who are afraid ask, what if I die? What if I this? Change it to, what if I succeed? What if this business goes wrong, goes well? What are the impact I can make with my life, with the resources? And at the end of the day, remember that all fears are emotions, and emotions are not substantive. What I mean is that you're not going to see, it's not solid like this, so it's not going to stand in your way. It's inside of you. So a critical strategy, another strategy, is to learn to do it afraid. That's where that comes from. Because the fear is actually something that is created somatically in your body. It's not outside. So it cannot really hold you back physically. And so what you must do to overcome that is to say, well, I feel the fear, acknowledge the fear, name it. Because once you name something, you have power over it. Name it. What fear is this? Is this the fear of failure? Is this the fear of success? Is this the fear of the future? Name the fear and then set it aside and do it afraid. Just go ahead and do it.
That's amazing, because there's something remarkable you just said, which is that the fear is not physical. It's something that is on the inside.
It's on the
But I
inside.
want you to look at someone, talk to someone who's at home today. It's a public holiday. Lots of people are watching. And they're just saying that, okay, I've heard everything that Stephen has said this morning. I feel encouraged. But it still feels like this fear is physical. There are some people that their fears actually cripple them. They can't even get out of bed. So what would you say to people to just round off our conversation this morning?
Like I said, all fears are learned. No child is born with a fear. Sometimes people have had some deep traumatic experiences that have conditioned their emotions, such that the fear, like you said, has become so real. If you are in that kind of situation, you might need some therapy. You might need to go see a coach who can help you revisit that story and help you reframe the context of the experience. But at the same time, what the coach is going to do, maybe at a deeper level, at a more robust level, is exactly what I am saying. Because what the coach will do, or a therapist do, is going to walk you into that story and change the context. Because we can change how we experience an event, even though we may not be able to change the event. So if your fear of failure, and I find that a lot in my practice, my coaching practice. Your fear of failure comes from a time when you were in school, where you did an exam and you failed, or a time when you were called in front of the class and you were ridiculed because you could not perform. And this now you've become an adult, and every single time you have to perform, that memory comes back. What we do is we take you back into that experience and reframe the context, and you can learn some lessons from it. You can see something funny in it, and by reframing the context of that story, you can change how you experience it. So it's the same thing. It's about changing what goes on in your mind, because at the end of the day, the fear is not physical. It is something that is constructed psychosomatically inside your body.
Wow, thank you so much, Stephen Omojuyigbe. This has been an amazing one for us this week. I'm sure you're sufficiently motivated. You can overcome that fear. It's not a physical thing.